Shalom, friends. Welcome to Michoel Muchnik's beautiful new studio. This is a beautiful new space. I'm sitting with the legend himself, Michoel Muchnik, and you've agreed to share some of your time. Since I created the idea of creating this podcast, you've been on my list, very much so, of creatives to talk to share, to get an idea of the inner workings, the history, your interaction with the Rebbe's interaction with your art. So we got a lot to unpack. So first of all, thank you so much for having me.
And this is great. Thank you so much for asking me to come, and I'm honored. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So where did your creative journey begin? Maybe we start with that.
Oh my
You as
gosh.
a creative.
Okay. I think my creative juices started because when I was a little kid, um, my mother, Alaya Shalom, she used to read us like children's books in bed, like almost
Sure.
every night. But she would get really good stuff, I thought. And certain things, it's that I remember that even from way back then, I already had, there were certain things that even today affected me and what some of the things that I paint, looking back on it. Um, and she was very creative, and as she used to make us beautiful costumes and different things, and or different things if I was in a play in school and stuff, just stuff like that. And we used to do things. My older brother at the time, because my younger brother was much younger, but we made this, and we used to make miniature golf out of like, Legos and well, it wasn't Legos, it was different things in those days. Whatever it was, all these different things. And kids in the neighborhood would come. We just did a lot of creative things.
That's amazing.
So I
Where
think
did
that's
you
where it started. Then later in life, I started seeing that I could, draw.
where did you grow up?
Philadelphia, a nice suburb of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of inspiration from your mother or from her stories, the way she shared these stories. What was her background? What was she creative? What's your family's
No, she
Judaic?
wasn't an art. She actually could do art very well. She just didn't do much of it. But and my grandmother did embroideries. I can't say we came from an artistic family or anything. I just you asked me where did the juices first come from? That's where it first came
Right,
from.
right,
But when I was mid-teen or young teen, I just started doing my own stuff and realized I had the talent for that
right. And
and really enjoyed it. What?
did your parents support that? Did they want a
Well,
doctor or a lawyer, or they were very happy to encourage your
well,
creative
no, I
career?
didn't quit school. I did what I had to do. I just when I had time, I would do all
Right.
my art.
Kept you busy, kept you out of
Kept me
trouble.
busy, yeah,
Right.
sort of, yeah,
What
sure.
was your family's Judaic background at that time?
We
What?
belonged to like a conservative synagogue, which was very big in Philadelphia. It's like the capital of the conservative movement at the time. Um, it was, it started, I guess, in the 60s or the late 50s. And they built, I mean, a lot of Jews moved into that area, and there was a big conservative synagogue, and it was like a big social life and all that kind of stuff. But, at 13, we checked out.
Uh-huh.
We just
Okay.
checked out,
Right.
the kids. It was very nice, but we checked
You
out.
checked out. So how and when did you check back in? And
Oh, when I was
did that have
well, that was
anything
after
to do with
that
your
was
art?
after
Which one led you?
it have to do with my art. My art is an integral part of my life. I don't know to say that it was because of my art, really. Um, my art changed as I changed.
Right.
I don't know if you can relate to that much, but I've gone through so many periods of change
Right.
that I've just like it has affected my art.
As it
I had
as
to
it
make
should. As I
transitions.
mean,
I just did because my art is a
is
lot
a
of it is an
reflection of you.
expression.
Is it
Yeah.
a reflection of you?
Unless I'm doing something which somebody commissioned of some sort, but
Sure.
I mean, generally speaking,
Sure.
yeah.
So how did you check back in? Where
Oh
and
no,
when?
so when I was like 16, I became a big hippie in high school. My hippie friends and that kind of lifestyle, and then it got more intense. And I ended up going to art school, which was even more intense. It got so intense, in fact, that I mean, it was either I'm going to self-destruct or like clean my act up. So I got into macrobiotic um,
Just the 60s,
philosophy,
the 70s?
cooking was 1970. 1970.
Okay.
Well, that about 1971, let's say.
So you felt
Well,
that it was too much, that whatever was going on was going to eventually self-destruct, and you needed some
yeah, there was no discipline.
spiritual
It was
correction.
like in those days, it was like do whatever you want. And now I do whatever I'm in art school. I'm doing whatever I want, and I was miserable, And I was like, I was just, I'm telling you, it was like self-destruction.
Wow.
There's just something. It's just. So I wanted to clean myself out of toxins and stuff like that. So I got
Right.
this health food,
Hmm.
and at the time, it was a spiritual thing. It was not, a Zen thing. I mean, maybe not a Jewish thing,
Right.
but um, the discipline of it, I think, took me out of the non-discipline thing. Now, I was always disciplined with my art, but not about what I would paint. That was also crazy.
Right.
So I made some great art, but it was also like I felt like the art was just taking me for a ride. I would just go into whatever came out.
Right.
Then after I became, observant, and I ended up in yeshiva for a couple of years and not doing much art at all. This was actually a suggestion from the Rebbe himself to me.
The Rebbe's suggestion was, just to
That
clarify,
I wasn't more
should take
not
a
suggestion. I actually asked Rebbe, said I should not any art that I do during the time in yeshiva should not disrupt from the schedule of the
right.
yeshiva.
It's not that you
Everybody
shouldn't.
knows that when you're
Right.
the
No.
schedule of
Right.
yeshiva, you learn
When
24/7.
you're in yeshiva,
But
be
yeah,
fully focused. But
yeah,
it wasn't don't
right.
do art. It's whatever art you do shouldn't interfere with your yeshiva schedule.
Right. So
Oh, okay.
when they used to have their time out to play basketball, so then I would do some art.
Right.
Erev Shabbos, and people were getting their showers and dressed, and we didn't have any Seder, so I would do some art.
Right.
And
Yeshiva.
most of it was I gave to the guys who got married as a gift or something.
Nice.
Usually, most of
Right.
it.
Right.
Now wish I would have saved it maybe and people worth something.
Right.
Anyhow, no, that's a joke. Anyhow, so but to finish the thought that I was
Sure.
saying
Sure.
was that I got married, engaged and married after 2 years in yeshiva, and I was going to try to make a living from the art, which I hadn't done yet, really. And but what was so interesting was but then I had to get back into doing a lot of art. And after like studying Chassidus, so I now had all these like ideas and a better discipline to like
Right.
start doing all this art. And what happened was I actually started to take different like parables and from Chassidus, and I was like putting them into the painting, so it became and then it was a whole different thing. It was actually when talking about Chabad, I
Right.
said like before when I was like younger, it was like, or in art school, it was like the art was just whatever. I was being controlled by the art. I don't know how to say it differently.
Okay.
And now I was like, I had what I wanted to paint, these ideas, and so I was more in control. So it was actually really Chabad. I really like learned about this Chabad thing, like you have a concept, and now how are you going to get it down onto the paper?
Right. Right. So before we get into Chabad and
Right.
your work,
Yeah.
once you came in, was there any conflict in that transition period from hippie to Chassid? Was there any conflict between your art and your creativity? I mean, this idea that the Rebbe said, don't paint during Seder.
Oh no, I
Um,
didn't have. It wasn't really very easy to transition.
so
But
tell
generally
me more about
speaking,
that.
no, I mean, go from hippie to Chassidus cannot be an easy transition.
Sure.
In one hand, it is because you've decided this is not what you want, and you say, no, this is the right way, or this is the way for a Jew, or whatever, however. And luckily, well, not luckily, thank the one above, I met Meir Abasera, that's where I spent a year before I came to Chabad, and then he came to the Rebbe. And so I had such a good role modeling to introduce me into a more spiritual, observance.
But also to integrate your different worlds, because from what I understand, Rameir Chasera did integrate his two worlds of macrobiotics and
Right, and he was
Yiddishkeit.
also like one of these free thinkers, you want to call it. So, And then a lot of people who were with him at the time, he was like their spiritual leader of his with that movement or whatever. A small whatever group of people that would come to him. So a lot of them became also, observant and they were just amazing people with just many different types of talents.
So there was no conflict
So the
of your creative
conflict with the
expression,
creativity, I
in
never
Jesus
really
Christ.
had a conflict with that at all because I loved creating. I loved, doing art and bringing things down into like the visual on the paper or whatever canvas. And from day one, I mean, when I started studying Chassidus, wow, it just opened up so many doors for me of wanting to express these things that it was like an overload, really. And it was sort of frustrating because I was not really doing it.
Right,
I
right.
was studying, and I wasn't the most learned academic type. Still not. I study, but my thing with languages or Gomorrah, like I get a headache after 5 seconds, like that kind of thing. It's
Right.
I'm not good with the languages or that kind of stuff.
Sure. So
So
your art was just an expression of you and your inner feelings and your experiences. So as you learned
no,
Chassidus,
no, I'm
so
not. Yes, in some
so
way,
what
but
happened
I
before?
was really like, yes, in some way, but it was also just even the concepts alone of that. I loved the concepts and I wanted to portray them, whether I was having.
Right. So your way of integrating these concepts was, okay,
Right.
now I have to paint
Now,
them. I have to
of
create them. I
course,
have to
learning
translate
Chassidus
them.
accordingly. And today's the holiday of Yud Beis Tammuz when the Friedrich Rebbe was
The previous
released
Chabad Rebbe.
from the Rebbe's father-in-law was released from prison
Right.
in Russian prison, which with death sentence and all that stuff was like miraculous. And wait, what were we just saying?
But your learning of Chassidus and the way
Oh no,
it's
no,
expressed.
I think it was the Friedrich Rebbe said maybe it was other Rebbe, but I think it was that if you learn Chassidus and you're not like applying it, then you're not really learning it.
Uh,
So that's sort of an answer to your question that if I'm not, if it's just a
if it's
piece
not
of
coming
art
out.
and it's not like internalizing, or it's not an expression of at least where you want to be,
So for you, if the
you,
Chassidus wasn't coming out in your art, you were not internalizing the Chassidus.
right, or at least it's like a way to help
Right.
internalize it
And
or to get
express
it
it.
down.
Right.
It's like any of these kind of things. It's actually fascinating the more you think about it.
So do you think you as an artist had a leg up in a way than other people because you had a way of expressing it? How did the non-creatives in
I
yeshiva
think that
have a way
artists have a
to?
leg up on a lot of things
Okay.
personally when it comes to spiritual type of sensitivities, if you want to call it like
Sure.
that.
Sure.
And I think it was also, I don't know if it was the previous, I don't know, but also said that like artists, one advantage they have is that because of the way they see things, they can often conceptualize certain things in Chassidus or Kabbalah that others might have a harder time doing it. Because if you're too logical, you're too
Right.
this, you're not, it's sometimes you're going to be missing some nuances. That doesn't mean it's very interesting, like, because it doesn't mean that means that you can learn better,
Right.
but you can, certain things you're going to, like, when they talk about that or someone is teaching that, that particular concept, you may get the spiritual kunz of it
Right.
sometimes.
But you're more open. You're more open to spirituality and non-linear
Right.
thinking.
Or, yeah, which, so that's fascinating. Um, but everything has its downsides
Right.
side.
So
You know,
what year?
I
Where did you
think
go
it
to
was
yeshiva?
also it's so interesting today is that because I learned a lot of things from the previous Rebbe. I once heard he said about art how like it's a very powerful tool or that it's a very the visual all these things, but that what the downside is that it can become hefker. Hefker means it's too free,
Loose, without boundaries.
too loose without
What you were
boundaries.
describing, the hippie stage.
Right, and there's a lot of art like that.
Right.
plenty of it.
Sure.
Like people look, oh, this is so cool. Well, it is, but what? And ultimately, what's the purpose of it? Or has this person spent, let's say, like I have to ask myself, like, am I wasting time by doing that?
Well,
I don't mean that picture, but maybe doing too much time on a particular background or something.
right.
You know, like,
Well,
yeah,
does
in other words,
art
you have to have, it's challenging, but okay, whatever.
does art have to have a purpose?
Oh, no, that's such an interesting question.
And I'm asking you that both as an
I
artist and as a
That is
chassid.
really an interesting question. I feel that my art has to have a purpose.
Okay.
My art is very direct. On the other hand, sometimes I feel like, shouldn't I just do something, like maybe just to like, not with any kind of
Right. Well, that
intention or
that
something?
is releasing. That's
Um,
cathartic and therapeutic in its own
but
right,
that's what I was
which
about to
therefore has a
say.
purpose.
But usually that also has a purpose.
Right.
Um, it's like anything. You know what? It's like anything. You could do things with lack of ego, or you can do things with ego.
Right.
And it can make the whole difference in all kinds of things.
Right.
Like, just because someone's making a lot of money at any particular profession does not mean that they're necessarily the most ethical, for
Right.
instance. It's like, so it's nothing to do with like who's the biggest, just so someone's a big actor makes $1 billion can be a low
No,
life,
ethics
right?
is a whole
Or
different.
someone's
Sure.
an artist and his pictures are actually influencing others to like have maybe very non-kosher thoughts
Right.
or feelings. So then what's that doing?
Right.
So do you have, so, that kind of thing. But I do, the Rebbe spoke about this, actually, it was a letter to an art exhibition in 1957 with Hendel Lieberman,
Right.
all Shalom, there was only a couple artists in Chabad that was not something people were doing. It was Henoch Lieberman, and it was Zalman Kleiman.
Right.
I'm talking about the older,
This
from
is
the
the old.
older.
Right. Do you consider yourself part of that milieu, that time period?
No,
No.
I'm not that old.
No, it's
I'm
not a
saying
question of
that.
age.
What?
Okay, let's keep going.
But by the way, I really like your orange socks. I think it's great. It's
It's
great.
brand marketing.
No, like it's
uh,
like if anyone's sitting in this seat, by the way, they should know that they start to get groggy. They just look down and it's like you're
socks are
not
there.
tired anymore.
Absolutely.
So yeah, talk about ADD.
Well, let me ask.
No, you asked me. I didn't. In fact,
How did they consider you? I mean, you knew
I
them.
think they consider me like they didn't understand.
Okay.
Like they just didn't understand. They painted pictures of Hasidim dancing or doing things or doing things on a Farbrengen or whatever like that. Now they were very different
from each other.
Well, because, and it's interesting, they both, look, I don't know all the ins and outs, but they both had big tragedies in Eastern Europe. I think they both lost their wives and children in pogroms.
Wow.
I mean, Zalman Kleiman remarried and had kids, and some of them are shluchim, and, Baruch Hashem. Vetel Henoch Lieberman never remarried,
Right.
but he was openly a much more joyful and happy guy, a happy chassid.
Right.
He would stand behind the Rebbe at Farbrengens. If you ever see pictures of the Farbrengens, the one that was like, when they would sing, he would look like he'd pretend like he's conducting an orchestra.
Right.
So that was him. He's a very colorful person, very. So they were very different. Their paintings showed like his paintings are like whimsical. There's a whimsical feel to him. Where Zalman Kleiman's are very intense.
Right.
And both great artists. But I think they couldn't relate to my stuff at all. And I mean, at a certain level, I never really had conversations with them about it.
You
but
didn't.
But from what
you didn't. There was a show at.
No, we wouldn't talk about our art.
We wouldn't talk about art.
We talk like it was Zalman Kleiman was like, where do you get your paints from? And seriously,
right.
He didn't want to talk to me about my art.
How did you?
I don't know. I have no problem.
How did you process that? Yeah, no.
He does his thing. I do my thing.
Right.
Very common amongst artists. I didn't want to talk to you either.
And here we are. We won't talk about my art.
Oh my gosh.
Just the sauce. Just the sauce.
Oh my gosh.
So take me a little bit more through the timeline of of your of your art
Journey?
journey and art. I mean, it's really about the art. It's about the creativity. You know, the Rebbe's influence on your art. When did you first come to Crown Heights? When did you first meet the Rebbe? When did you first turn to the Rebbe for guidance in your art? Um,
Okay, so I was in Morristown studying for less than a year when it was announced that the Rebbe they would let us go into Yechidus those who had a birthday in the last couple of months or whatever. So I was one of them. It was after Pesach. My birthday's before Pesach, but it was close. And they arranged, and there was 8 of us who fit this category. And Rabbi Gruner actually postponed the first one because he felt that we weren't ready or that we should appreciate it or something to that effect. So I brought in some pieces of artwork to show the Rebbe, so to ask what I should do with my art. I brought in some calligraphy, and because I asked maybe I should become a sofer. Like
right.
I really just at that point, it's really shocking to me in a way. I was willing to like not do my art and even become a sofer. That's what the Rebbe told me. Like, I have this talent. What's the best thing I should do? At that point, we were very like given over whatever the Rebbe, says. We should always be that way, but anyway.
But I mean, it's it's a theoretical anyway. But if the Rebbe would tell you to stop creating, I mean, but that's not the Rebbe's way anyway. So it's a.
Now I see it wasn't the Rebbe's way, and I don't know what I was exactly.
But you were compelled
expecting.
as a Chassid coming to a Rebbe.
Chassid coming to the
you
Rebbe,
brought your paintings,
and
because
yes, like
central,
what's the Rebbe say?
Right, that's central to who you are, and you
Right.
needed the Rebbe's
Right.
feedback or understanding, or you needed the Rebbe to understand you.
I don't
as
know
part of
exactly
your
what I
art.
needed, I mean, I don't know. It's really sort of amazing. I didn't even like sort of understand too much about the Rebbe that I don't know. Maybe it's the way I was studying and the way that the Mishpiyim were talking to us
Right.
that and we took the whole thing hook, line, and sinker that this is
I think
he knows what's best for us, that kind of
absolutely.
thing.
I know. I think it's very healthy that you were encouraged, or that you brought your art to the Rebbe. That Yechidus is two souls meeting, and yet part of your soul, part of you is your art, and therefore you brought it to the Rebbe to get
Well, yeah, like
whatever
how
feedback.
could I feel like isn't that like a normal thing to do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, people put it, but that's so interesting. Like, who else would bring a sample of something they do?
I mean, if someone was, I don't know what big into baking, big into, I don't
What are
know
they gonna
what,
do? Bring a cupcake, you
bring it
mean?
exactly
Yeah,
like, or a recipe. I mean, they're gonna get the Rebbe's feedback on a recipe. I don't know. I'm just looking.
I bought very small things. I don't even know. Like, no, I'm saying like, I wonder if they knew I was going to bring. They may have suggested not to do that. I don't know if I asked anybody. I just brought it along
You
with
just
me.
did it. I love it. That's my point.
No, you know what? I'm just now appreciating what you're saying. I never really thought about it that much, but it was sort of a unique thing. Very interesting.
I have many identities, and I
Right.
show up in different places. I bring different parts of me,
Right.
where I do wear a Manhattan jacket, where I don't wear a Manhattan jacket,
Right.
where I wear a button-down shirt, whatever it is, and
Right.
and when I'm showing up as a father, I don't need to bring my art, so to speak. But when you're showing up as a chassid, or when you're showing up with who you are at your essence, at your stripped down essence, at your
Well, that's not who I
that's
am in my stripped down essence.
no, but
but
what you're bringing to
maybe
the Rebbe.
but that's what Hashem gifted me with, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what it means so much to me, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love it.
I mean, yeah, no, it's really actually fascinating. I know I'm thinking about now. Let's see. So, gosh. So I brought that in, and the Rebbe said I should make. So, the first thing the Rebbe told me about that, because there's other things I asked too. I was in there about 8 minutes, so that's actually a long time. I'm not proud of that because I'm taking up the Rebbe's time, but I mean, there are people in there for an hour or 2 hours sometimes, but mostly were in shorter. And the next time I went in, it was a minute and a half, just didn't say anything. And I didn't say much the first time either, but Rebbe asked me certain things. So with the art, the Rebbe said that as far as a sofer, you should ask a sofer. I don't go into that whole story, but after 2 days, and after talking to a sofer, I realized
That
I'm
wasn't for
not
you.
learning enough on this. I won't be doing my arts. That's not, well, that was,
Out.
and it's not that the Rebbe he let me discover that in my own
Right.
walking around to us and going to a sofer. It's very interesting. And yet the Rebbe he said, you should make ksubas. So the Rebbe was already saying, use your talent, make ksubas, marriage contracts, which you didn't have to be a sofer for. It just has to be,
Right.
you can read it,
Right.
or you get a sofer to do it and you put art around it,
Right.
whatever. Somehow when the Rebbe said that, I got very excited because I guess it was a neshama thing. I got very excited because I realized the Rebbe is giving a green light for me to do my art,
Right. Right.
like that's, or from the Rebbe's point of view, whatever it was, and I got excited about that. And so I had been, when I had done really intense, creepy, psychedelic sort of looking art in art school. Very dark, very weird. And then when I'd gotten to Yiddishkeit, like somehow it was like more, I took it like very naively in this, I don't want to say naive, like it's an essential like storybook sort of just beautiful, like it's just beautiful to me, like so much of the stuff. Not that it was easy to do all the things. I'm not talking
Right.
about that, but
Right.
the concept of the whole thing, and of things, and my work became very childlike. It was all those details, but it was very like storybook like and like a children's illustration like what. So when I got into that, I was excited to maybe do children's books. So in Yechidus, I said, when the Rebbe said about the Kesubas, I said, oh, you mean I can do children's books? And the Rebbe, nodded. I said yes, whatever. And I got so excited that somehow there was like this big green light, I guess, in me, and like the Rebbe's encouragement, like and I just got so excited. I actually started clapping. I started clapping. I think about it, and the Rebbe like nodded like with it, not whatever. Not I got spoiled. The Rebbe was not the type. The Rebbe was type. I'm not sure the type. Chas v'shalom, you say such a thing. The Rebbe did not get spoiled. He just
Right.
acknowledged
Right.
my excitement. And that's why I did. That's how those children's books came about, really. And what's so fascinating, because of Baal Tshuva, a couple of years, and almost immediately when I left, I went to Yudel Krinsky, Rabbi Krinsky, and I said, I said, I can do children's books. So he said, well, give me your manuscript. So I wrote a book, and 2 books, and they published them under Merkos.
Right.
Now, of course, they read them, and it fit in for
Sure,
children,
sure,
something
of
about
course.
this. But the point was, still looking back on it, that's pretty amazing.
That really is.
No, not amazing that I did it. Amazing that they did it. That they were that kind of. The Rebbe had that kind of vision and open mind. There wasn't any children's books for that age group. There were for older ones, from Zalman Kleiman, but there wasn't for younger children.
No, I think it's
which
incredible.
is shocking that there wasn't actually. But I don't know. I just find the whole thing, sort of. I can't stop thinking about it. Really, I often think about it.
Well, the Rebbe saw the value in it, the need for
Right.
it, and I don't know if it's trickled down, but yeah, the
Right.
management and the Chabad world,
Someone said to me,
no,
I
yes,
got here.
you're not. In contrast, perhaps, to
Right.
how Zalman Kleiman and Handel Lieberman looked at your art, and they
Right.
couldn't understand it, and you're from a different world,
Right.
they're from a different world,
But
and
the
they couldn't.
Rebbe actually
But the Rebbe
had a
didn't have
different
that problem.
had a vision of like this is going to talk to people from our generation who are not from Eastern Europe and this
But
kind
not
of
just
stuff.
the Rebbe, but
Yeah.
even that Kahas printed it. That Kahas, that it went beyond the Rebbe
Well, it
himself,
wasn't
and it went
wild stuff, you know, but
No,
yes.
that you were accepted, that you
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
work was accepted by. It's not management. It's the right. I'm trying to think of the right word, but by the establishment. It was accepted by the establishment. They saw. They
I'm telling
realized
you,
the
it's
need.
fascinating, but I'm sure. I think since that I didn't say the Rebbe said that I should write children's books for Merkos.
Right.
Just I should write children's books, and then I brought them to to Merkos, but
I think what I'm trying
maybe
to say.
they associate. I don't want to say they're all. I don't know. It was just the whole thing to me is still.
No, I love it. What I'm trying to say is I don't think every Baal Tshuva who
Right.
came through felt accepted by the
Right. Well, that's
the establishment.
that's
And
interesting.
you,
Yeah, but
through
you
your
know, I
art,
still was
just
like
an out
still, but
thing
you know,
was-
there's certain things you felt like you know you weren't sort of understood about this and about that, and you know, in your life. That trust me, there's plenty of that. But I always felt that a lot of my fellow Baal Teshuvos, some of them always like you know kept in this Baal Teshuva thing. I was like, pretty soon I was not into that.
Right.
People are people and this kind of stuff. And I think that going around and doing exhibitions by the shluchim and everything is like I got very much already involved and having relationships with the establishment, you want to call it.
Right. Right.
And I'm not saying we're not calling it establishment in a negative way.
No, just
they were more of a confined community that had a certain, you know, culture, I guess you want to call it, or something, and insular in a certain way. But because they were still Hasidim of the Rebbes, and maybe they weren't listening so carefully, but the Rebbes were already way beyond this insular
Right.
thing.
Right. Well, at the same time, the work that you were producing then was very on point to their ideas and ideals. So you weren't bringing
but
anything
just in
radical.
a novel way. And the Rebbe said that
Absolutely.
that he wanted people to especially when the shluchim started going out, that they should do things, but do it in a novel way. Novel way is what attracts people.
Right.
Because a lot of people feel like, oh, Judaism is like so, you know, it's so like monotonous. But it's so the Rebbe brought out that's exactly the opposite. It's a discipline. It's a truth. But it allows for like individuality and each person can has to. Each person's like we wouldn't be created by God if we didn't have something unique. Like that would be boring for God, I think.
That's a good way to put it. I like that. I agree. It'd be boring for God. Yeah.
Like each person's really got something.
Sure.
Really got something. I think the Rebbe helped us see that.
Right.
This whole opposite role
All
and
of
stuff
us.
like that. It's like it's just amazing, really. Yeah. Anyway.
So after that first Yechidus,
Right.
what other interactions? Because I've heard stories. Your son has told me a story of I did an art show for him ages ago in California. In Oxnard.
Nice.
Um,
No, I think about all the times I travel around. Good, let Yitzchok travel around now. He can take my seat on the airplane. Takes energy,
takes a lot of energy.
and
Yeah.
it's not so simple. People don't realize. They just have no idea. It's not like someone is like a lecturer, let's say.
Right. No, all the schleppage.
Yeah, a
All
lecturer
the
takes
schleppage.
his mind, his expertise, and his maybe a few notes, and he goes and he opens his mouth and he starts to speak and he has to entertain,
Right. The setup and the breakdown is
Right?
very different.
But
For an artist, the setup and the
artist,
breakdown
I
is,
mean,
is
gosh, you have
right.
to finish the paintings in time. You have to this. You have to spend money. You have to do this. You have to. People have no idea what's involved.
Right.
In fact, I had such a difficult time with it at the beginning that I actually asked the Rebbe what to do about my anxiety because I want to do this, but it's making me too anxious to travel around and do these things.
Right.
At the beginning. So I said, what should I do and what should I meditate on? I've spoken about this many times. So the Rebbe said I should put a pushka, a siddur, a chumash, a tillim, and on the table at the side of the exhibition, so it should be seen, obviously, and that what I should meditate on, the Rebbe wrote, meditate on the hashgacha pratis.
Yep.
It's still an avoda to do all that. I mean, especially the meditation part. I mean, if I do an exhibition, I haven't done it hardly. I met people come here now, but still, I have everything on the table over there.
Now they can come to you.
I do these workshops now. I call them
Do you want
somatic
to?
art workshops, but I do them, and I also I've also give a certain amount of tzedakah beforehand, 18 times 18 cents. So I did that too for
So
this
would you
workshop.
like to hear my story with your son?
Yes.
Because I was in California.
Yeah,
Again, I
yeah,
was
yeah.
doing a tour. So
Yeah.
I had my whole crate. I shipped it out there.
Right.
And I set up every night of the week to go to somewhere else, another shliach.
Oh my God. How many did you do?
I did maybe 7 in a row.
Oh my.
Like Friday night, speak somewhere, and then Motzei
When I
Shabbos.
wrote there was because I did 8 exhibitions at the first Chabad houses in California, from Sacramento to San Diego. There was
Right.
almost hit every Chabad house.
Wow.
One night after another.
Right.
It's so interesting that you
Yeah.
that you
So
followed suit.
I
Yeah.
followed suit. So I'm at your
Yeah.
son's Chabad house, and of
Right.
course, the son of an artist has to
Right.
introduce an artist by referencing his father, the artist. And so he told that story. He told that story
Oh
of
gosh.
of the
Amazing.
Rebbe's advice. The Rebbe's advice to
Right.
bring a siddur, a chumash, a tillim, a tzedakah box,
Yeah, and not a Tanya.
and not a Tanya. Interesting.
You know, it didn't Dafka say not a Tanya. It just
Right.
I
It
see that the
wasn't-
Rebbe did not
right.
put a Tanya. Like I'm thinking chitas with it. It can't hurt to put a Tanya.
Right.
I asked myself, I always wondered about that. And I had this slide show that I would give, and I would explain the Chassidus in the paintings.
Yes.
And if you want, I could take an example of one of the ones I used to do a lot. If
Yes.
you want.
Yes.
And I thought maybe because I am already doing, like I have sort of protection from the anxiety, because you feel like you want something to calm you down, and that you already have it with that.
So here's my
I'm
story.
thinking
So
that.
here's my story.
Now I
Here's-
want to hear your story. I'm sorry.
Here's what happened.
Yeah.
So your son shared
Right.
the Rebbe's advice
Right.
about how to combat the anxiety
Right.
and really to be mizbonen, to contemplate on the power of hashgacha pratis.
Right.
Fine. So your son shared. We had a wonderful
Right.
night. Whatever we did, it didn't sell. I don't remember. I packed up the van. I slept. He hosted me for the night, daven shachris, and I got on the road heading to my next destination
Right.
for the following night. And I call up the following night's rabbi,
Right.
and I said, just like logistics, timing,
Right,
when
right.
to unpack, whatever. He's like, no, it's not this Wednesday. It's next Wednesday.
Oh my God.
I'm like, it's not next Wednesday. It's this Wednesday. He's like, let me check. He got the date wrong. We agreed on this Wednesday, and
But
he scheduled it for next
published
Wednesday.
publicized it for. Oh my.
I couldn't just stay another week. I had like 3 more
Right.
days or whatever it was. My wife was pregnant. She was, not due, but still, I couldn't spend another week. And
I'm
half
sorry
of
to
me,
laugh because it was happen. These things happen to me too, and
half
that's
of me
what-
is freaking out,
you
and
get
the other
so
half
anxious.
of me is saying, wait a second.
Hashgacha pratis.
Hashgacha pratis. I heard a story last night that the Rebbe said to me, mizbonen on hashgacha pratis.
Right.
So I said, okay, how are we going to solve this? So I finished the tour, and actually the crate was supposed to go to Northern California. So I left a whole lot of paintings with this rabbi,
Right.
and the rest, and he was going to put them back in the crate,
Right.
and then it was going to ship to
So he was
Northern
going to
California.
exhibit the. Yeah.
So I flew home,
Right.
and I did Zoom. This is way before COVID.
Right.
And he didn't tell anyone that I wasn't going to be there.
Right.
And he set up the whole exhibition.
Right.
And he explained the error, and I got on Zoom, I got on the screen,
Right.
and I shared, and we ended up selling like what I would sell on a typical night, which
Beautiful.
beautiful hashgacha pratis. So it was inspired by the story that Rebbe told, the
my
advice that
God,
Rebbe
that's
told you, and the
amazing.
story your son shared. Right there, the next day, it like got put into play. So yeah,
Wow.
money's a factor of life, and
Yeah. Big part
we
of
don't
the
want to
anxiety
be
part.
we don't want to be starving artists.
Right.
But yeah, it's be mizbonen on hashgacha pratis, the God's influence in the whole world. Yeah, so that's
That's great. No, it's even more. Hashgacha Pratis are beautiful. This came about because of my son's like this.
Yeah. No, yeah.
No, that particular thing that the Rebbe said to me. Just this is what's really interesting is that I was just at the Gem big dinner they had on Gimel Tammuz
Yes.
after 30 years since Gimel Tammuz. So Gem's been around before that, but
Right.
they just made a big fundraiser, the fancy dinner, and my son got me in there somehow. And I had just written to the Rebbe, Gimel Tammuz, that when I go for Gimel Tammuz the day before, whatever, but that I was experiencing. By the way, this setting up this whole new space and spending all this extra money and just it's like too much, and then this and I'm these workshops. I got so anxious. I was like, I hadn't had this kind of anxiety for a while, and I didn't know what to do, and so I again asked the Rebbe to help me out with that, or I should be more calm. Lo and behold, I come to the dinner, and the whole big, huge screens I had all over the walls, and I have to make it impress everybody. And it says 30 years, and then, in Gem, whatever it was, 42 years, whatever it was, blah, blah. And then it comes in, something comes in this line from the side, like, what should I do about my anxiety? This was the first line. What should I do about my anxiety, right? Something, perk up, all right? Then all of a sudden, it's my Gem video from a clip from the video they took of me years ago, right? Not too long ago, it wasn't. And all I'm saying is, and I asked the Rebbe what I should meditate on to ease my anxiety, and the Rebbe told me to meditate on the Hashgacha Pratis. And then they had this whole big meditate on. The Rebbe answered, meditate on the divine providence. This is the beginning. This is the beginning of this whole splash that they did this evening. I'm sitting there in total shock, right? Anyway, whatever. It's still Navoda, but it was just. Can you imagine? But think of the Hashgacha Pratis of that, and that's the whole thing I was talking about. So
Isn't it great to have a Rebbe?
What?
Isn't it great to have a Rebbe?
Yeah, when you tune in, otherwise you get anxious. Anyhow, so that's pretty funny. But let me just show you. I wanted
yes.
I take this olive, which is
this is from the early collections. And here we're gonna turn it up to the camera.
Right, and it's one of my vintage pieces. But the reason I want to speak about this briefly, because really everything I can talk about, I can go in deeper, and as time goes on, I have more to say about it. But one of the early things that I did was I took the word from the Alter Rebbe, and who was telling the teacher who was going to teach his son Dovir, who became the Mitzler Rebbe, how to teach an aleph. And he said the aleph is made up of a yud above, a yud below, and the vav, which joins the two yuds. And there's different versions about what was actually said. For sure, the yud was the pintala, like the Hashem, okay, above, because the yud is like the small, it's like a dot. The yud is like this as a letter, it's like a dot compared to the other letters. And the yud below represents the Yidden, the Jewish people. And the vav, there's two versions. One is Amunah, which connects us with Hashem. One is
Amunah being belief. Just I'm spelling it out, translating.
Yeah.
For those who don't
know. Faith, but it has more than that. But anyway, and the other version was Torah and mitzvos, right? It's the Torah and the commandments, so that. And then I explain it. It brings the blessings down to here, and then I show this. It's called the Kutzah Shel Yud, but it's basically there's a little crown on the top showing that because not that you should think that Hashem is anything is Shemayim, the heavens. It's Hashem creates the heavens and the earth and all that kind of.
Right.
So there's many things about this, but so I had a slide presentation. I would do different things, but I would go from childhood to old age and stuff like that, and go through different holidays and show paintings that I did that had to do with it, and try to often explain if there was Hasidic concepts in it. But lately, I'm using this already in my somatic art. workshops because there's a lot of we do some guided meditations, and the meditation there's meditations on this like the yud and the stuff and the nakuda, of like especially the part that's in us, like the spark of Hashem that's in us, that we're part of. Like when I say the part, revealed very high part that the Jewish people have a special, that we can feel certain part of godliness and that's in us. So I always like the meditation is going into a point in yourself, like just go into this point, just small, like an infinitesimal point, and then I realize it's like, and then we're like in between. It's a paradox. It's also about the neshama, the earth, the heaven, earth, or soul, the neshama, the soul, and the body. There's all these paradoxes that we're dealing with. Torah mitzvahs is the guide, so how we can
integrate,
not just integrate, yes, and also bring down and make a dwelling place for godliness in this world. That's what Hashem wants. So you could go, I can tell you, you can go on, and when you're like breathing and doing meditation on it, you can go into all kinds of interesting places. So it's just interesting to me that, like, even though this is a vintage piece, but it's like it's when you have an eternal Torah idea in it, it can just keep growing. Even though I didn't have those intentions when I did the painting, but because you get the nakuda in it.
Sure.
And I want to show one more picture.
Absolutely.
Because this is, I was actually just WhatsApp my family today, reminding them that how many ideas I got because today's the birthday and the anniversary when the previous Rebbe was released from prison, and his discourses they were very pictorial, very visual for me.
Right.
And so many of my paintings come from there. So this one is called Geffen, or grapevine.
Right.
And there's a mimer that's called Geffen Mitzrayim, or the grapes coming out of Egypt. And there's a whole thing about the grapes. The grapes, because the Jewish people moved around, they went into the exile, and then they were taken back and planted back in Eretz Yisrael. So like grapevines do better when they grow even better when they are transplanted to other places, where other things don't. But they particularly do better.
Right.
So it was like, I love that. So, and then but 4 different parts of the cluster of the grape has to do with 4 different levels of Jewish people. Like you have the cluster would be the fruits, the learned, the Torah scholars. The leaves would be like the protection, it protects it from the rain. So that's like the supporters of the yeshiva, the ones who help pay for them to sit and study, that kind of thing. And then you have the branches, or the branches of the supporters, and this would be I think this was, these are the supporters are the ones who come to their classes.
Okay, all right.
Not the ones who like sit at the dust of the scholars and learn from them. That's the leaves, and then the what do you call it? The stem. The branches is the supporters, and then this little they call it in Hebrew a kaniknok. It's this little guy sitting there smoking a pipe. These are people who unfortunately haven't, because it's a potential, but it didn't fulfill itself. It's people who don't utilize their potential. But because we're all different, we all have all of that in us too, like that. Each person has the thing, and but together we all pull each other up, that kind of thing. There's many more things in there. I'm not going to go into it right now. There's a lot of stuff in there, but a lot of it was taken from that particular
mimer
discourse.
All right, is it one more that you want to share?
No, this is one more huge one. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Let's grab it.
Right. So this is this is a chas and kala, a bride and bridegroom there, and no, it's not. It's parents. There's a baby there.
Oh.
Okay, so it's a mother and a father with a baby. This is based on basically I came to my guard my sister, my bride. Okay, this is not I meant to bring one here that was really a bride and a bridegroom, but because that's also the famous discourse from the the Basi Lagani, the one that the Free Rebbe wrote for Yud Shvat, then passed on that day, the Hastakus, and then that's when the Rebbe became Rebbe a year later on that day.
Right.
And so there are many in that. Oh my gosh, in that one, there's so many different things I've used for paintings. Amazing, just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the visuals.
Yeah.
So I mean, your work has evolved, and yet it's stayed the same to some degree.
Oh no, I do all kinds of different things now. Well, it's I can show you something.
Looking at a Muchnik, you can always tell this.
Well, the detail.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a compulsion. Every artist has this thing. It's getting harder to do that details. So now I'm really appreciating some of the details.
Right.
Because I look at it and I say, well, I can't do that anymore, or I don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
I want to do other things.
So what keeps you going? Why
why are
you still creating art? Or why do you create?
I mean, what keeps me going? The same thing that always kept me going. I think I always, this is very interesting to me, but I thought about it many times. I just like to see something new. I always want to see something new. I always want to see it grow or change or just new. I don't know if that's like a plus, a minus. It's definitely a plus if you're an artist, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, a plus if you use a plus in anything in life. I mean, every day is brand new and everything is like that. And otherwise, all the different things, all these concepts in Judaism, everything, they can become just by rote if you don't each day at least try to see something new in it, right? But I always wanted to create something, like do something new, especially with my own hands, if you want to call it like that. So thank God. Thank God I still feel that way. So I think that in a way it keeps me going. But also, Baruch Hashem, that people appreciate it. So when you work so hard at something, that when you do something, someone buys a painting and puts it on their wall, and they're inspired by it, or they just like it, it makes them even just whatever, relaxed or inspired or whatever. It's not. I always have this question, like when sometimes get artists together, like, are you doing art for yourself or are you doing it for other people? Like, you're doing it for the other people to view it, or are you doing it for yourself because you need to do it? Like, it's an interesting question.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's some of both in it.
Right.
Maybe some have more of this and more of that, but I'll ask you that question.
I just have a whole lot of ideas that I'm super excited by, and I want to bring them to the world. The world needs to see these, experience these. The world will be a better place with them in it. So I have a responsibility to bring them to the world.
Right.
I mean, I bounce around this idea of new, for sure.
I see it in your work.
It's not
I've seen you doing
intentional, reinventing myself. It's just, okay, this excites me. This excites me. This excites me.
Right.
And there's no. Also, I didn't go to art school, so I don't have any one medium that grounds me.
Right.
As I like to put it, the way I've understood creativity is that there's three basic elements to all creativity, if I will. There's what you say, there's how you say it, and how you share it with the world, what you do with it afterwards. So what you say is your subject matter, the content. How you say it is
the
your
form,
medium,
let's say, whatever.
And then how you share it with the world is what you do with it then. Is it
how you get that idea, how you
out or not? Is it
communicated?
How you communicate it. Exactly. That's a better word. Is it something that just stays in a gallery? Is it something that goes to a private collection? Is it something that, to begin with, is created like a mural, created outdoors, so that there is no gatekeeper? That from the get-go, it's there to be communicated publicly. And these three elements and how they come together. So to me, it's very much the content. What you say. and it seems to be yours as well. I mean, what drives your? Is it the concepts? Is the ideas of Torah of Chassidus that drives you, or is it a new medium that you discover and then you want to explore that new medium, and so therefore you'll take the concept with it? Or is it a balance, or is it just a healthy
I don't know if it's a
evolution?
balance. Like I may come up with a concept, or I study a concept, or whatever, and I think this would be a really great thing to paint.
Right.
And maybe it's just going to take too long, or it's going to be, the practical start comes into it
Right.
too. I mean, it's like kind of thing. So, like I said, like now, like I take a piece which is, I'm more excited to like find new meanings in it, even though now I may portray that differently next time I do an olive,
Right.
or may mean something different when I put it in a painting or something, or yeah.
So going back, if I can, to the Rebbe's influence on you and your art, the Rebbe gave you specific directives for certain things.
Once in a while, but that was when I would ask, like, or I would just show the Rebbe something. The Rebbe may suggest something, but it never had to do with the artistic part of it.
Right.
It had to do with the
message,
content.
the content.
Yeah.
So what do you feel the Rebbe's, not advice, but the Rebbe's advice to creatives as a whole, that you received?
Well, I was about to mention before, and it's an exhibition in 1957.
Right.
So the Rebbe like even wrote something that I guess they could print out, or they did print it out, and they gave it out. The thing, and it wasn't very long, but it was very profound. And the Rebbe said that an artist has the ability to take something physical and make something spiritual out of it. And you see that. You're just taking paints or whatever it is, but when people look at a painting, they see
so much more.
They see what you're painting, the idea, the picture says something. Well, that's a spiritual thing that came about. It's really actually fascinating if you just think about it.
From all these details.
That you're just using these stuff, and it comes out that like there's this picture that you're looking at that it's actually really, people just take it for granted. It really is amazing. In any which case, and the Rebbe said that, like, for example, paints, canvas, whatever, and then create something that, whether it's still life, the Rebbe said inanimate object, which is like a still life, you're just painting a vase or something, or animal life, or human life. And when the human life is involved in the activity of Torah and mitzvos, it actually elevates the whole art form to its highest level. In other words, Rebbe was saying that art that shows kedusha, or that is inspiring kedusha, or whatever, is actually the highest form of art in the world. That's how I took it.
Right.
Which is pretty.
This is what the Rebbe wrote to that
I mean,
show.
if you would tell that to, them in Florence, I don't think they would go too much into that.
Right.
But you look at it. I always talk about it like Michelangelo, was like, like he's the and he was amazing sculptor, he was an amazing artist. Technically, there's not even a question about that part of it.
Right.
But so he did a statue of David. So it's so sheker, it's so false. I mean, it's disgusting in a way.
Right.
The Jewish people are so modest and sneeze, and he wasn't circumcised, and he wasn't wearing a yarmulke, and so it's just baloney.
Right.
It's actually worse.
Right. And I mean, if it was,
and yes, you can marvel the fact that he took some big piece of stone and was able to just chop it down to just get this.
But of all the things that he chose to depict, he chose, of all the subjects in history, I mean, he could have done, Caesar. He could have done,
Right, and I think that's
so
what
even
makes it worse, because
and yet he chose
they were like, yeah, it's like they're, what I'm saying.
They're mocking.
I wouldn't, in a way, yes.
Right.
In a way, bring it down, saying that and because that was their whole idol worship. It's idol worship. That's exactly what it is. Literally, That's what a pestle is. So things like that are just other types of art. You see it's it's if it's not
I
true, if it's not presenting something that's true,
right.
and Torah mitzvahs is always true, so the concepts are always true, like that kind of thing.
So I heard that Baruch Nachshon and his relationship with the Rebbe
Right.
is another a whole chapter.
The Rebbe's paid for his art education.
Right, right, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
But if I understand correctly, if I recall correctly, the Rebbe told him that his role is to counteract the klippa in art and to bring kedusha in art. Have you heard that?
I read a long, I don't know if it's Chassidus that was reprinted that Baruch Nachshon wrote up afterwards. I don't remember exactly, or it was a letter the Rebbe wrote. It also late 50s. That the Rebbe did say there, as far as I remember, that generally speaking, art has been in the hands of the klippas. Yes.
And his job was to take it back.
Right. Yeah, because you're not doing art for art's sake. You're doing art to show Jewish meanings and things and stuff like that.
Was that something that Rebbe communicated with you, or it was communicated to Baruch Nachshon, and from there the rest of us got it?
Yeah, I think the Baruch Nachshons of the world, there weren't too many, like they just paved the road.
Right.
And as far as Zalman Kleiman or Heinrich Neil Lieberman, I don't remember which one of them, but I think the Rebbe said to one of them, maybe both of them, that they're like advertising Hasidim.
Right.
Like there was a certain people, remember when people saw Hasidim walking down the street in America, they weren't too impressed. They had
Right.
they were very everybody was
they were
like
lower class in society.
you
They were
know.
considered lower class.
But you take one
Part of
look
those
at like
emperors.
their paintings, and you look at Hasidim very differently.
Right.
You see a tremendous depth, a tremendous joy in both of those artists. So depending what you're looking at, and like that
So then,
exhibition down wherever that was in the 50s, it was in Philadelphia. Rabbi Shem Tov was there in Shlichus
right.
for a while, and then he had them, which was for him. And by the way, he came to one of my shows because he's from Philadelphia. So when I sent him an invitation, and my first show down there was in my parents' house, and he came and bought something. I was really impressed.
No. Very
Yeah,
nice.
it's probably the first person that actually the shliach gave him money, and he didn't ask for a donation.
So, but I mean, to be a little controversial, but I mean, if this is what the Rebbe said in the show, as instructions to the show, whatever it is, but that is there room in Judaism for art's sake, or creativity for creativity's sake, or is it only a tool for sharing Torah mitzvahs?
No, it sounds like that's what like the Rebbe
Yeah.
said. The Rebbe didn't say that. The Rebbe said that it elevates it to the highest level.
Right.
Whatever. The Rambam. I have a quote from the Rambam. Now, in those times, the Rambam was giving credence to art as that which beautifies the home and makes it like a nicer atmosphere
Right.
to for the family, maybe the relation. I don't think I think it was more about that at the stud that your study of Torah, that your all that stuff is just in a nicer atmosphere that's more relaxing for you.
It's enhanced.
It's enhanced.
Well, it's similar to what it says about wine and
I'm
meat.
sure in those days you'd go into the Rambam's house, and I'm sure his wife had beautiful tapestries or something like that, or for the couch. I'm saying
Right.
this is and it does. It make your home is, whatever. It's also whatever, that kind of thing. So, it's not like today people like need therapies, and there's a lot of talk about, a lot of people are doing like thought meditation or breathing meditation or whatever, which is all very good. But there's some people that today they're saying some people, it's more helpful for them when they're doing something with their hands.
Right.
So if they can be not with a lot of judgment like that, because that can ruin the whole thing. But if they're just doing art for pleasure, and and it's to keep whatever to relax them or to ease their nerves or something like that, or gardening or things like that. It's all,
Right. That
Hashem
it's a
knows
tool.
everybody's thoughts. We're not micromanaging
No,
everybody's
I'm just asking.
thing with art. But I hear you. I hear that question, and yeah, I sort of get both of my pictures because there's parts where if I just want to relax and not do something intense, so I'll
Right.
just, or meditative, maybe, or get that feel.
You can get lost in the
I'll just be
process.
filling in little designs that I make, right? So
Are there any ideas, concepts, pieces that you wanted to make, but you realized pasnish, that's not appropriate, or you shouldn't create, or
no,
you never had that?
I never really had that conflict. I really didn't. It's funny. Like I wish in my regular life I would be so like from, but it's like the truth is, it's like like in art, it's like if it's not Kedai al Torah, then it's not Kedai. I got plenty of things to do. I'm not like
Right.
I'm like I have to draw this.
Right.
I have to share my demons. I have to do. I mean, you know, I'm just not really interested and I have my demons. Who doesn't? But I just like I'm not that interested in
Right.
painting
And
them
sharing in
out.
that way.
I have other ways of
Right.
what do you want to call it? Dealing with that.
So this beautiful new space
Yeah.
is both a gallery.
It's a gallery showroom,
Yes.
by appointment, basically. It's also like a shtickle museum because I have all kinds of stuff. I didn't put them up yet, but of just from all the history, different things I have sitting around that I never really archived. I'm going to try to get that together with God's help, because tour groups do come here on occasion.
Right.
So they can see my messy studio to see that I'm a really authentic artist
Upstairs.
and which is the only place they used to come and whatever. And now they can come here and sort of see like, like in a gallery setting. And then it's a big space. So I started these somatic art workshops a good while ago already. For a few years I've been doing. I call it somatic art because I don't know what else to call it. But it's where there's involves some meditation and like feeling certain things by doing things with the clay or forming a particular sculpture and about some feeling you're having or something like that and expressing in the art. So it has this, I love it. It's always novel. People have different experiences with it, and it's just they make some amazing things because you take the ego and the judgment out of creativity. So people who never did hardly anything.
Just flow.
The way I direct it, and it's not like, okay, did you ever go see these art classes where like everybody comes out with the same painting? Like they teach them how to paint that painting.
Follow along. Yeah.
Like this is totally different. Like everybody's piece is totally different. And it's mixed media, and it means something. Like there's a little bit of process. They're like to process something, a challenge, and stuff like that. I just find it really fascinating, more than fascinating. It's like when you take something that's sort of inside and you start playing with it as a piece of clay, and you pick the colors that it represents to you, and then you pick other colors that maybe can help heal that. Something's going on that you have a visceral experience. I mean, some people are much more sensitive to it to others. Some of us have amazing things, and other ones, whatever. They're just like, it's cool. Or they're just surprised what they turn out with.
Right.
So how I got into this, whatever. But I did. And I just took a calling, so I just do it. And it's not my day job. It's, when I have an evening here and there.
But it's a continuation of your creativity. A continuation.
Yeah, it really is, and it's also nice because people come to the gallery, so it's a way of bringing people in,
Right.
In fact, during the exhibition, during the workshop, if what we're talking about a specific Hasidic concept. So I might just say, oh, wait, I'll pull over a painting and explain
Right.
how that's in there, or
Right.
that's what it is. And I think
Beautiful.
it's really important because I think there's a lot of artists today, Jewish artists, and they have now a lot of professional, amateur graphic designers and everything. And they're sharing a lot, they're expressing a lot. I feel like there's a need for um, maybe having some lectures or seminars, something to share different things, their episodes, so that maybe they would want to find ways, because I see they want to express certain things, but I just share my experiences or things,
Well,
insights. But
that's
that's all open for that now,
right. Well,
God's help. Mm.
that's my last question that I
Yeah,
ask in these
yeah,
podcasts
yeah.
because the idea is to share with others. So,
Right.
what is your advice for young creatives
So I'm
who
creatives.
to
That we're
find
talking
their
about
orange sock?
basically artists, but it could
Artists,
be,
but it
but
doesn't not just visual
it's
artists.
across
It's
the
all
board.
exactly.
First of all, for all those who don't think of themselves as creatives, that's number one. To me, that's a baloney. I'm going to say it's a baloney. I understand why people feel that way, but I think that everyone needs to get in touch with their, you want to call it their creative part of them, because it's just Hashem's a creator, like, and we're a part of Hashem. Like, everyone has that somehow,
Sure.
whether it comes out in art, music, or just the way you speak to someone. But there's some, you know what I mean? Like, or
Yeah.
whatever, how you express yourself can be very artistic. How you are mechanech your child, how anything, these type of things. But when it comes to like art and some, especially or music, I think it's very important that you have an intention, um, that it's like have a thought, something or a concept or sort of intention, what you want to, what is your intention in this painting and what do you want to express, let's say. And then you have to, there's a lot of thoughts that go along with that sometimes, and feelings. And you have to check yourself, are the thoughts in line with your intention, or are they blocking
Hmm.
the intention? And if they're blocking the intention, that can also block the creativity or the expression coming out. Blocking can come, blocks can be from your own self-judgment of how good you are, how bad, how,
Right.
all this judgment stuff. It's like, and I suffer from that to this day on a lot of things. It's just a human, you have to just catch yourself,
Right.
be aware that that's
Right.
what you're doing, and not let it get in the way, or how I'm going to sell this, or am I working too long? Just all these different things can get really in the way of the flow. So just to check yourself that. So we'll start with the intention, and then the thought processes, what you're thinking, and then the feeling is like, yeah, do you feel good doing this, and do you feel like it's flowing, and if not, maybe just to stop and take a breath, do some breath work, or whatever, like that kind of thing, and just like sort of just go in again to your intention, go into like a little, space, and just feel good, feel good, and then chances are with that, your desire will usually come out on the page, maybe not exactly the way you wanted it, maybe sometimes much more exciting than the way you originally intended, and then to leave room, to leave that space for the unknown to happen. You have to do that. Most people who are artists or creative people, really creative people, if you will ask them, think of a few of your most creative moments, like where did it come from? It wasn't so much that they were thinking about this or that and the other, and they often say, it just came into me. It comes from a higher place, it's a gift from above. It's because of the way you actually were thinking about this. It opened up the doors that you made a vessel to maybe catch something that's
Right.
just
Right.
more, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like, and just go for it and be yourself. Don't worry about, You just paint. You just do your thing. If you're true to your desire, then people will catch it, and you know they'll also appreciate it. They'll feel it's authentic.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Michoel. This is fun. We should do this again sometime.
This was very special.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
I mean, probably like 50 years ago, two artists couldn't sit and even look at each other. Nevertheless, have a whole conversation like this.
Right.
Now I'm joking around, but I mean, it just shows we're Mashiach Zeiten. Artists, with all these jokes about artists not getting along with each other. What?
I'm not familiar with that, but yeah.
No,
I look up to you.
Because you're from this generation. I'm just talking about it. Wasn't
right.
I'm telling you.
It didn't used to be. Right.
I think it's beautiful.
You're an inspiration of mine. And
Thank
I'm sure
you.
you're an inspiration of many young artists.
Thank
and the
you.
fact that you did it, you're doing it, you continue, and it gives us.
No, thank you very much.
Hope
And
to keep
likewise,
going.
I mean, I when I saw you out there and you're traveling around doing all these things, the murals, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. And I really, what I really like is when you engage people and they take up their hand. And I like what you do, which I've often thought about, but it's like it's not my thing. It's like a lot of, I would get too involved in all the details. The fact that you can get people together and do something. That communal type of thing.
To me, that's very much.
I mean, I've thought about that many times. It's just, I would get so. I mean, forget it. I mean, with my ADD and my control freak situation, it would be just very difficult to pull that together.
So God gave you your talents.
Right, God gave you
your
talents.
Baruch Hashem.
Love you.
Okay, Michoel.
Yeah.
Eshikach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.